En tiempos turbulentos. En el último año, su libro Executive Coaching for Results le ha llevado a viajar a Australia, Japón, China, India, y él dijo que estaba interesadísimo en venir a América Latina. Por supuesto que yo estaba más interesado en que viniera a Perú, mi país natal, pero me dijo no, Colombia es primero. Without further ado, I present you Dr. Brian Underhill.
Good morning. I grew up in Southern California, near San Diego, as Carlos mentioned. And when my friends and I were about, say, 9 or 10 years old, like boys always do, we formed these clubs. So, for example, we would be a club of policemen or firefighters or even soldiers, Secret Service soldiers, something like that. And every time we had a club, our club always had to have a president. And since we always had to have a president, guess who always had to be the president?
You.
Me! Exactly. Every club we had, I had to be president. Now, I always had a trusty vice president. And this was my best friend, Patricio. Patricio's from Argentina, by the way. So Patricio was always my vice president. And then our club always had just one member. Our one member was always my little brother, Steven. Esteban. And Steven was only 6 years old. So he had no choice. He had to be part of our club. Now, the fun thing about being the president is that you can make people do things that you want them to do. And so whenever I wanted Steven to do something, I would just order him to do it. If he didn't do what I wanted him to do, then what I could do is I could lower his rank again, lower his rank again, and eventually I could just throw him out of our club altogether. But then Patricio would do something I didn't like, and so I could do the same thing. I could demote him, lower his status, lower his rank, lower his rate. Since he was a higher rank, this took longer. I had more steps to go. And eventually I could toss Patricio out of the club too. The problem was, after doing this a few times, none of my friends wanted to play with me anymore. I decided at that early age that I would actually become a student of leadership and try and figure out what leadership styles worked, what styles didn't work, and to be honest, how could I get my friends to want to play with me again in my clubs? So today I work as an executive coach to senior leaders of very large corporations. And I'm still studying leadership style and what leadership styles work and which styles don't work for which situations. And I believe today I have a very compelling story to share with you that I've been studying in depth for the last several months just to share with you this morning. This story has absolutely fascinated me since I first started to learn about it. Now, I believe this leader we're going to learn about this morning may be considered, in my opinion, one of the greatest leaders in history. Yet, he led through one of the worst conditions in history. And just for fun, if you believe that at your workplace now, if you think it's any worse than the story we're about to learn, please come talk to me afterwards, and I'll make sure you get a free copy of our book. Now, this leader actually never finished school. He left school at age 16. He never earned a university degree. He never had a master's degree, of course. a very average student. He definitely never got to go to a congresso like this and learn all the latest about leadership like we all get to. He had a very small organization of only 28 people. I suspect many of you lead larger organizations than this. He wasn't very old. He was perhaps 40 at the time that we are currently studying. And he wasn't one of these big people person type leaders. He was actually very introverted, quiet. He preferred reading over spending time with people. And on top of all of this, the organization that we're going to study actually failed in the very mission it set out to accomplish. Not only that, he tried the same thing 3 other times. All of them failed. He started several other businesses. All of them failed. And when he died, he left his poor wife in debt of about $1.5 million. On top of all of this, I suspect that most of us have never heard of this leader before. I have not even heard of him until just a few years ago. We're going to begin our story in South America, in the ports of Montevideo and Buenos Aires in 1914. The ship, the Endurance, is here from England under the command of Ernest Shackleton. Shackleton and his 28 men are resupplying here in South America, and they are going to attempt to be the first people ever to walk across Antarctica from here to here.
Queremos darle un souvenir de Colombia y en este momento les quiero invitar, antes de salir al coffee break, primero la conferencia de Brian está en los CDs en español, ¿sí? Todo